Hey, stop that cat. Errol Spence, man down. Reports come out say that Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia did in excess of 250,000 buys in a pandemic. More bad news for Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford is a hell of a fighter, but with these type of numbers, it proves that in the welterweight division, Errol Spence is truly the cash cow. Stay tuned. Yo, what up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Man down. Mike Coppinger of The Athletic, he just tweeted this out. I will jump right into it. According to his sources, the Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia welterweight title tilt, a PBC on Fox pay-per-view, generated in excess, operative word, in excess of 250,000 buys at $75 a pop, pulling in at least 18 million and change, 18,750,000 to be exact. Spence's last two fights exceeded 300,000 pay-per-view buys. I think it was 350 and 360 for the Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter fights on pay-per-view. PBC's last pay-per-view, Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, generated over 200,000. Wow. Man down. Mr. Man down. The truth, Errol Spence. Now, this is very bad news for Terence Crawford. First of all, if I'm judging the fights, and I'm only fair on my channel, I got to be fair with you guys, and I got to be real. But if I'm judging the fights, I had more fun watching the welterweight main event with Danny Garcia and Errol Spence Jr. A lot of intrigue, a lot of mystery. Errol Spence coming off an accident. That was more of a storyline. Crawford, to our knowledge, was healthy. He didn't go through anything, near fatal like Errol Spence. So I expected the best Crawford. However, his last opponent, Kell Brook, I didn't know what to expect, and I definitely didn't expect, the Brook that we seen versus Errol Spence 3 years prior, right? Or versus Triple G, because he's had some performances that were lackluster since then, and inactivity. Kell Brook himself, the videos are on YouTube, check them out. But he also talked about struggling with depression, things like that, and he was considering hanging it up and various things like that. So to me, I thought this was a better fight. Now we find out that this particular fight also did numbers. They said 16,000 in attendance, right? I mean, it's just becoming harder and harder for Terence Crawford to justify what he's claimed. He said he deserves the lion's share of money, 60-40, over Errol. He said he's the A-side because of his past accomplishments, 135 and undisputed at 140. Now I have some stats for you guys to look up. This is the recorded attendance for Errol Spence's last fight at the AT&T Stadium before Danny Garcia. Well, actually, this is the Danny Garcia fight, excuse me. We'll get to the other one in a second. But this is basically Errol Spence's last fight, right? In a pandemic, and he's drawing 16,102 people in the AT&T Stadium. You guys see it. Terence Crawford will use a non-pandemic fight with him and Jeff Horn in a tourist town like Las Vegas. He drew 8,112 fans. That is literally about half, just about half of the fans. So how is it that Errol Spence in a pandemic is doubling your attendance in a pandemic where there was social distancing practices being administered and you could only go, with precautions and things like that, And Terence Crawford, when he fought Jeff Horn, and I'm using that fight because that was his title fight. This was a unification, so I'm trying to make it as close as possible. If I'm not mistaken, Terence Crawford's highest attendance is about 13,000. So you basically, any way you slice it, you have Errol Spence Jr., who is topping Terence Crawford's top attendance, his title fight attendance, etc., in a pandemic. And one would have to think that if we were not in a pandemic, how many people would have actually went and made the trip to Arlington, Dallas area, Arlington, Dallas Cowboys Stadium to watch this fight live? You got to ask these real questions. And Terence Crawford has put himself kind of in a bad position. The way he's been promoted has not been the same. Errol Spence has fought the tougher competition at welterweight. His last 3 fights compared to Terence Crawford, really no comparison. Crawford is a great fighter, but he put himself in this predicament, Terence Crawford that is, because at the end of the day, he is the one who has told people that he believes he is the A side or somehow worthy of splitting the pie. Even Bob Arum did a recent interview. Bob Arum did a recent interview with The Athletic. And in that interview with Bob Arum, he says, hopefully PBC gets tired of losing money and they decide to make Crawford and Spence. But as you guys can see with the numbers that Errol is generating in a pandemic, not in a pandemic, he's the cash cow. So I don't know where Terence Crawford and his team, where their head or direction is, thinking that you have the leverage in this situation. And again, I'm a boxing reporter, fan, analyst, vlogger, blogger, whatever you want to call me, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect, but at the end of the day, you can't blind the masses into what we're seeing. Errol Spence, coming out of a car wreck, did numbers in a climactic and unprecedented times. A lot changing with the nation, election year, the Rona, and he's packing out stadiums as much as you can for these times. Crawford's last fight, if we're going off of his very last fight, there was absolutely no crowd. There was 0 crowd. They were in the bubble at the MGM. So only close friends, family, and people working the event were able to go. Plus, the fight itself did not deliver. Crawford delivered what he always delivers, which is good performances against who he's up against. But Errol Spence delivered and had Danny Garcia's face looking like, it's been through the meat grinder. And Danny Garcia is a top-rated fighter, and nobody has done that. And Errol Spence gets in an accident and does that. So as far as I'm concerned, Errol Spence continues to impress both in the ring and also with his popularity. He's the discerned cash cow and A side. He has a great story, like many fighters, what he came from, bad decision making, a mistake, and then correcting that mistake. So his trainer, I think his trainer of the year. If you don't have Derek James as your trainer of the year, you may have something wrong with you. You may be racist or biased or whatever. Derek James has 2 unified champions. Jermell Charlo just knocked out a dangerous Rosario and made him have some kind of convulsion or seizure on the mat, on the canvas. If you don't think that's worthy of being, the trainer of the year, I don't know what it even takes to become trainer of the year. And then Errol Spence has a great underdog story as well. Listen, when I do these videos, it's nothing personal. It's always business. I'm Ego Brown. Facts are the facts. The numbers speak for himself. You got The Athletic, who their sources are saying it did excess of 250. So excess could be anything. We have to wait for the true numbers to come out. This is just, they have to tally there's multiple ways to consume content now. Tablets, mobile devices. Like I bought the fight, the Errol Spence Danny Garcia fight, but I bought it on my iMac, on my brand new iMac. So I watched it on via stream as opposed to on my TV. So we don't know how everything is tabulated with Nielsen Media Research or whoever is showing the buy rates, So there might be numbers from a PlayStation 5 that are still coming in and things like that. Digital streams like I did, things of that sort. So if it's in excess of 250,000, then that's good. Meanwhile, you have Terence Crawford's team pandering to the, like, I guess anyone who will listen, saying they're the A side and they deserve 50-50, but they're not doing 50% of the work. Crawford, yes, he's a great fighter. He's done solid things in his career as well. But in this argument, in this battle, they are losing. The gap is getting wider. Crawford is not fighting similar competition at the point in which he's fighting him. He's not doing similar numbers. Errol Spence, all of his pay-per-views since he started have been mighty respectable numbers. Like, he's doing numbers that in a pandemic that Mayweather did versus Gotti on his first pay-per-view, you know, and even before the pandemic, 350, 360, in excess of 250. These are good numbers. Meanwhile, Crawford's people, Bob Arum, Top Rank, ESPN, keep hating on PBC and saying that, you know, hopefully they're tired of losing money, and Oscar De La Hoya is doing the same thing, saying PBC keeps losing money, but the numbers are showing something different. You have to be weary about people who are constantly talking about other people's money. Why do you care? Why is Bill Cosby trending? I'm sorry. This is super random. I just seen Bill Cosby was trending, and I was just curious why he was trending. I would like to put the pudding in the Errol Spence numbers with the 250. He did about 300, you see. And the Jello, the pudding, like, sorry. But you cannot say Crawford is doing the same type of numbers as Errol. Because Spence, he not about the fifth floor and feel for the boop bop bop, the boopity bop. Bro, it's not the same what we're seeing. How are you going to get 50-50 in a business sense, you know? In a business sense. Canelo's a cash cow, he calls shots, right? But for some reason, old media believes that even though Errol Spence is producing all these numbers, looking good in fights, clearly has a fan base, you know, he's tapped in with the culture. He rejected the DJ Vlad interview. People like Yellow Beezy, hey, lock. You know, these rappers are messing with Errol Spence, and his events are bigger, and people are showing up and dressing up and buying tickets. People are clearly buying his fights, talking about him post-fight. He's getting, you know, good publicity. Meanwhile, Top Rank is saying that Crawford is losing them money. Their own word, their own founder said this, Bob Arum, and said he could have bought a house in Beverly Hills. But somehow the sense of entitlement is because it's a good fight to you, despite what you've done and the business that you've conducted, you're going to get the same pot. You're going to get the lion's share. You're going to get an equal split. You're going to get what you want and things on your term. Meanwhile, Sean Porter is Crawford's mandatory, and that's a great fight too. But all you hear from old media is this agenda about Errol Spence must fight Crawford next and all this stuff. You're not in a position to even bargain with, and Errol Spence might even get a Manny Pacquiao fight. So the sky's the limit for him. I don't really know what the move is for Crawford. He's a free agent, you know, in a few months, or in October of last year. So almost another year. He might try to buy himself out of contract. He might stay with Top Rank. I don't know what's next for Crawford, but these numbers are undeniable. Here, look, this is Forbes.com. This is an old article, and it says Errol Spence shows he is a terrific fighter and a big draw. This is an old article after the Mikey Garcia fight. And it says he shows he's a terrific fighter, but also a big draw, right? The reason they said that is because the fight with Mikey Garcia, I was at that fight, you know, because we weren't in the pandemic. This is the attendance. This was the announced attendance. 47,525 people attended that fight at Jerry's World, and it's only up for Errol Spence. Crazy comeback story, great performance from Danny Garcia. They could keep building. And the thing that I like that PBC is doing with Errol is he's not limited to just Texas. He was at Frisco at the Star with Ocampo. I went to that fight, right? The Mikey fight was lit, 47,525,000 people. These are Canelo type numbers, Pacquiao type numbers in a football stadium. But they also took him to the Staples Center. He fought Sean Porter, another fight I attended, in a unification, and it had 16,000 people. 16,000 people. Again, no matter what you say, 16-1 versus Terence Crawford doing lesser numbers, the gap is getting wider. People see it. Everyone sees it except for apparently Team Crawford. These are the facts. And again, the only reason we're talking about these particular statistics is because of what a Crawford is saying. He's saying, nah, I'm the A side. Pay me more. Pay me equal. It's like how you, if I get a job at a computer company and I have no background, no experience, they're going to pay me like, okay, you have some experience working, but not in this particular field, versus Bill Gates, Steve Jobs or somebody, and they have job specific and their resume shows you that, and you call their references and they've been in the same field and excelled and done great numbers in their field, then more often than not, the person with, even if they hire me, I'm not going to make more money than the people who are a direct fit. Errol Spence is that direct fit. He's doing the better, more lucrative numbers. He has more belts than Errol Spence. There's literally no argument, you know, and these numbers continue to prove what I've been telling you, whether you hate it or love it. The only thing that I've heard from people is say, oh, why are you talking about numbers? Why are you talking about numbers? Because Crawford's talking about numbers. Crawford is saying that he's the A side. So how could Crawford say I'm the A side, I deserve equal split, equal pay, 50-50, 60-40, my favor, I don't need Errol Spence, he need me? He's saying these things. So, of course, I have my thoughts and response. And again, with these numbers that Errol continues to produce, the gap is getting wider. It's showing that Crawford does need Errol more than he needs him, because Errol's in the talent pool. You know, he's aligned with the talent pool that has the popular welterweights outside of Crawford that he could fight, you know, and the production was awesome from Fox. We didn't even really get a promotion for a lot of Crawford's fights from ESPN. They announced the Kell Brook fight 2-3 weeks before the fight even was to commence. No promotion, no crazy graphics. The Lomachenko Teofimo fight poster looked way better than Crawford Brook fight poster. The telecast was messed up. The audio was cutting out. It wouldn't let me log in to an account that I have with ESPN Plus, and I have ESPN through DirectTV. There's no comparison, people. They had audio issues, login issues, and then the co-feature, it was like a small card with only a few fights, and then the co-feature itself, the co-feature took 30-40 minutes for a 2-round fight for them to watch some instant replay. You know how many people probably dropped off before they got to Crawford's main event just because they were bored and tired of waiting for the co-feature to end? You know, that it's just a bad look. Errol Spence is a big fish, man down. Hey, stop that cat. It's just what it is. The numbers are showing that. Let me know what you guys think. Back to Errol. Hellified numbers. Great performance. It's just becoming harder and harder for Crawford. If you think you can justify how Crawford is going to get 50-50 despite everything I've said in this video, please leave me a comment so I can hear this. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
It was a long, long road to get back to this point. What was going on through your mind when you were walking through the little area to go to the ring?
Basically, it was just like what my shirt says. It says I'm back. You know, and you know, it was just more of a grateful moment for myself. Like, man, all this hard work, you know, from this year and a half, you know, led me to this point. So, you know, basically it was just, man, like, you worked hard to get to this point. You deserve to be here. Now it's time to put on a show. Let's go. So I wasn't nervous at all after being a year and a half off. I wasn't nervous at all coming and walking here. It was more of, man, like, this is my home. This is where I belong. Let's go. Definitely. I mean, you know, I feel like, you know, that's why they say a lot of boxers stay too long, because this is like a drug does. This is like a high does. So, you know, when people are cheering for you and, you know, the crowd, you know, basically praising you, you know, that's like a high. And that's why a lot of boxers, you know, come back. Like Sugar Ray Leonard, he came back, you know, he didn't need the money. He came back to fight because he was chasing something. He was chasing that high that, you know, basically, you know, people still cheering his name and being a champion and saying, you know, like even the Hector Camacho documentary was like, man, it's nothing like when people say and new, you know. So you know, I just, you know, getting that again and just, you know, hearing people and still, and, you know, they putting the belts around me and things like that, you know, that meant a lot. And it's just, you know, I'm glad my hard work and basically my dedication and my path to get back, you know, ended with, you know, me defending my titles and, you know, putting the belts around my waist again and doing it in my hometown in front of all my fans.
Errol, did you feel that you hurt him at some point in the fight, particularly to the body?
Yeah, I think I hurt him a little bit, but Danny Garcia is very tough, very gritty, iron chin, iron body, and he's not gonna, you know, basically, you know, cower down to anybody. So I think I hurt him a little bit, but, you know, he's gonna fight regardless.
It was to the body you felt you hurt him more? Or?
Yeah, I think I hurt him a couple times to the body, and I hit him in the chin and hurt him a little bit too, but he just, you know, he's a real fighter, man, so he's not going to go down easy.
Did you feel toward the end of the fight he was just trying to make it the 12 rounds and he wasn't going to open up against you?
I think he got discouraged a little bit. In the fight, and he kind of, you know, stopped his assault because he wasn't really landing that many punches. I was blocking him, picking him off, slipping him. So I think he was getting kind of frustrated.
Errol, great performance. I know you already talked about getting back to the ranch, very understandable. But what did you think of Terence showing up ringside? Do you think that helps build some buzz to make it a big fight?
No. I mean, he got to live up to his words. If he say he's not worried about me, then I don't know why he doing what he was doing here. I probably wouldn't go to none of his fights, so I'm not worried about Terence Crawford. Like I said, I'm going to enjoy my time with my kids and chill out and just reflect on this year and a half that, you know, I came back, and, you know, we're going to move on in the summertime and see who I fight. So we'll see. I got to talk to my manager, Al Heyman, and we'll go from there.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.